folks, this is a tutorial that I've prepared for the use of product table in 3D Experience. Product table is something similar to design table, except that design table is usually used for uh, parts, whereas product table is better for products. In an earlier tutorial, I showed you how to parameterize an assembly, which means that create parameters that you can easily go to the tree and change, and the assembly uh, re, re basically is reproduced based on the parameters that you have specified. In product table, we don't really have we don't arbitrarily change these parameters, but there are certain values that determine the sizes in an assembly, which are preset by the user, and the user can of course create that as an Excel spreadsheet and then make the appropriate changes in it. So the present problem is actually shown here. It is uh, this particular setup. We have the bottom piece, which I refer to it as a box, and the top piece, which I refer to it as a wedge. The wedge has two parameters associated with it. It's alpha, the angle on the top, and the radius. And the box has also has two parameters, the R and the H, which is the height of the box, and the horizontal size of this box, width of the box is 1.5 times H. So this 3D experience actually is the uh, public documentation is gradually growing, and there's a lot of stuff on YouTube. It's growing at an exponential rate, and I also wanted to show you what I have done to provide some kind of a elementary support for people who want to use the experience. This is one of them. This is published by SDC Publications, and it's available at Amazon. And there's another one here, which is the use of finite elements in 3D experience using Simulia, of course, or Abacus, the old Abacus. And finally, a book on mechanism design using 3D experience version 2016. The tutorial that I'm going to show you today is more in line with this particular book, and although the software that I'm going to be using it is 3D Experience 2017X, but some of the well, it's going to be just as easy to pick up some ideas from that other book. Anyway, the situation is first thing I've done is I've logged into 3D Experience, and I'm in the assembly design. The first thing I'm going to do is to rename this assembly. So I'm going to change the name of it from properties. I'm going to go to product table. I'll call it product table uh, August 2017. How about that? Okay, good. Then we're going to create the two parts with nominal dimensions. So right click insert a 3D part. All right. And then I'm going to rename that to be the box. Okay. All right. So right click properties. Let's change this whole thing to say PT box. All right. And okay. So let us make this. Double click on the shape, 3D shape, and I'm going to create that geometry that showed you here, the yellow geometry. Okay. So on the convenient plane, on the YZ plane, I will sketch, a shape which looks like what you see there. We can clean it up in a minute, so let's actually do it like this. So there we are. Okay, and maybe it was better if I actually create a rectangle. So yeah, let's do that. So delete. I don't know why I made it that complicated. So anyway, let's make a rectangle right there. Here we are. And dimension the edge, this edge. This is going to be later on our h parameter. And also dimension this edge. This is going to be 1.5 times our h. Okay. And then we need that circle there, so might as well make a circle with the center right there. And let's do a cleanup using the quick trim. So let me see, where is the quick trim? Right here, quick trim. So I'm going to delete this and delete that. All right, good. And let me also dimension this, the radius of the circle. Oops, Control Z. Okay, dimension this circle, dimension this radius, and it's going to be like this. By the way, notice that it did turn purple. That's because inadvertently I have some constraint here, which I can delete them. Let me delete these constraints. I think this is one of them. There. Okay. Now, very good. Exit and path. Where's the path? There's the path. And since the pad length is not a parameter, I just arbitrarily do 20 millimeter. This is not going to change. Okay, good. The next thing I want to do is to change the name of these dimensions that are created. Okay, so if we go to Tools, f of x, and then click on that part, it shows you all the dimensions that are associated with this box. So for example, this one, I'm going to change the name of it to H of the box, right? And it has that value that you see there. This one, this radius, I'm going to change the name of it to R, B, okay? And finally, this dimension, I want it to be equal to 1.5 times HB. So add a formula equal to rename parameters. Let's see if I can find rename parameters right there. Equal to 1.5 times HB. Okay. And then we're set. All right, the next thing we're going to do is to create, the other part. So right click, properties. Let me close this. Move on to the assembly right there. Right click, insert. Let's see, 3D part. I'm going to rename this thing to be, I think I called the other one product table, PT, I called it the box. I'm going to call this thing the wedge. All right. And now we can make it just like before. Double click on the 3D shape. On a convenient plane, on the YZ plane, I will sketch. Okay, so we'll sketch something that looks like this wedge here. So let's see what's the best way of doing this. Perhaps Make a circle right there. All right, and then uh, draw the let's see now, draw something like this, and then we're going to clean it up. So delete this. Okay, let's do a little bit of cleanup here. So quick trim. I want to get rid of this guy, and I want to get rid of this arc, and get rid of that arc. Okay, and let us now dimension this, because these are going to be parameters also. Sorry, let me dimension this circle. Later on, we're going to change that thing to the name of it to be R radius of the wedge. And I want to dimension this angle because it happens to be one of the parameters that we have. Okay, good. So exit. Add it. About 20 millimeters. And then we go to Tools, F of X, and you click on that part. It shows you the stuff that we want. So for example, this radius, we're going to change the name of it to be RW. Select that angle, and that angle is going to be alpha. And say okay. And we're pretty much done here. Okay. So let me see. I just noticed here something that, yep, excellent. Why don't we save this thing first? File, right here, save. And the other thing is I want to change the color of that box into yellow, although that's not critical, but I want to do that. So I go back to this part, right click properties, under color, I change that thing to yellow, and there we are. Let's do a final save. This basically takes care of the first part, the first portion of the tutorial, which is making the parts. Now we can, by the way, create assembly constraints here. I'm not that concerned right now, so we just leave it the way it is. Now, let's go back to the part right here, and you go to Tools, and down here, under the knowledge section, you can see that where f of x is, there is the design table that probably you're familiar with, and then there's the product table. So I'm going to click on the product table. It tells me that you're going to create a knowledge engineering specification, and you can give it any name that you want. So I will use this, I will use a default name here. No, actually, I'm not going to use default name. So I'm going to choose, how about my first try, and say okay. And then once again, yes. And notice that up here in the tree, a branch will be added. It says right here, it says there is uh, the branch that I created, okay? And this is the default name that is going to be product table. You can call it anything you want. I'll just leave it as default name. So you say okay. Right there. Okay. Now, let me stop this tutorial, and the rest of this is going to be in the second segment. Okay. So before I do anything, I'm going to say okay, because we're going to come back and clean this up. You say okay. The table is created here, and right there, as you can see, but there's nothing in it, but I haven't done anything. So I'm going to save this, stop the tutorial, and then we move on to the second segment where the rest of it is going to be